All right. So the Alexander Isak Newcastle United drama, saga, whatever you want to call it, that has been monopolizing all of the headlines over the past offseason has taken a dramatic turn today, a very ugly turn, might I say, today as of August 19th. And it all kind of started off when Isak put out a statement. I'm going to read it out. I'm only going to read a part of it just because it is kind of long-winded. And he says, I've kept quiet for a long time while others have spoken. That silence has allowed people to push their own version of events, even though they know it doesn't reflect what was really said and agreed behind closed doors. The reality is that promises were made, and the club has known my position for a long time. To now act as if these issues are only emerging is misleading. When promises are broken and trust is lost, the relationship can't continue. That's where things are for me right now, and why change is in the best interest of everyone, not just myself. Okay, so he said that earlier today, this afternoon. And pretty soon after, I don't know how long after, but pretty soon after, Newcastle put out their own statement on social media saying, again, I'll put this up on the screen. We are disappointed to have been alerted to a social media post by Alexander Isak this evening. We are clear in response that Alex remains under contract and that no commitment has ever been made by a club official that Alex can leave Newcastle United this summer. We want to keep our best players, but we also understand players have their own wishes and we listen to their views. As explained to Alex and his representatives, we must always take into consideration the best interests of Newcastle United, the team, and our supporters in all decisions, and we have been clear that the conditions of sale this summer have not transpired. We do not foresee those conditions being met. This is a proud football club with proud traditions, and we strive to retain our family feel. Alex remains part of our family and will be welcome back when he is ready to rejoin his teammates. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack from that. The first thing I want to talk about is in Isak's statement when he talks about the whole broken promises and trust not being there no more, whatever. To me, it sounds like he's talking about some type of, I guess, gentleman's agreement that he had with someone in the club. That obviously Newcastle are saying he never had any type of agreement that would have let him leave this summer. I'm assuming he had some type of gentleman's agreement that would have let him go, that would have allowed him to leave, and Newcastle would have been forced to sell him at this point in his contract, whatever. Mind you, he signed a 6-year contract in 2022. All right. Um, that's the first thing. The second thing is this: as a player, I feel Isak is entirely in his right, sure, to, want to take the next step in his career, want something better for himself, right? No disrespect to Newcastle fans. Newcastle, yes, it's a big club in England, but if we're being honest here, it's not as big of a club as Liverpool is. That's just a fact, okay? Um, if he feels like he wants to take the next step, he's ready to take the next step, he's entirely in his right to voice that and, go ahead, do that. He's not doing it the best way, I would say, right? I would say this. If you had these ambitions, because these aren't ambitions that you develop overnight, right? These are ambitions that you've had for a while. I think everyone that plays wants to reach the top of the top, right? The top of the top for a lot of guys, again, no disrespect, the top of the top for a lot of guys is not Newcastle, right? It's usually it's the Real Madrids, the Barcelonas, Bayerns, Liverpools, Cities, all these kinds of those kinds of teams. Um, for you to have signed a 6-year contract, first of all, why would you sign a 6-year contract in 2022, knowing you have these types of ambitions? Secondly, why are you signing that long of a contract without some type of clause in it that would have let you leave, right? When you have it written on paper. Because gentlemen's agreement, that is great. Doesn't mean anything in terms of business. Doesn't mean anything at all. Get it in writing. That's when it matters. Okay, so if you were to put something in your contract that would have said, okay, at this point, if Isak wants to leave, Newcastle have to sell him at this price point, whatever the case was. That would have made everything so much more seamless. The transition just would have been cleaner. And in general, that's more or less just how business should be conducted at this stage, right? At this level of the game. Um, Newcastle have done nothing wrong to me, right? I have no issues with their statement whatsoever. I completely agree with them in saying kind of just doubling down like, no, we're standing firm on what we have as our price point. It's not like Newcastle haven't tried to replace him, right? They tried to get Ekitike this summer. They tried to get Sesko, right? They've tried. I think they even tried Ollie Watkins at some point where they've tried to find a replacement. They just don't have as much. Again, no disrespect. They just don't have as much pull as Liverpool does, for example, or as any of these other top clubs do, right? But it's not like they have just said no, Isak's staying and he's going to be our main number nine. No, they're trying to find a replacement for him and then let him go. No, that's just bad. That's a malpractice business wise. If you're gonna go and sell your top talisman and then not already have a replacement for him, this doesn't even make sense, right? So for them, they've done nothing wrong to me, and this is where things get ugly and tricky for me. And this is the part that I don't like. This is something that I've only heard about today. So the initial reactions to all of this all sounded the same in terms of, okay, Isak is screwed, right? Because he's got 3 years left on his contract. Newcastle don't have to sell him. It doesn't make sense to sit out because it's a World Cup year and, whatever else kind of stuff. So basically, all the initial reactions have pointed at Newcastle having all the leverage in the situation, right? Lo and behold, enter this thing called Article 17. Now, I'm gonna put this up on the screen. In layman's terms, it's some bullshit. I'm gonna be honest with you. Article 17 basically allows a player to unilaterally break their contract after 3 years in that contract. So for Isak's case, you signed in 2022. This year, summer of or yeah, this at the end of the season would be your third full year under this contract, meaning he can break away from his from the rest of his 6 year deal for essentially, nothing, right? Like he can just tear that up and leave and go to Liverpool at this point. And Newcastle are entitled to a little bit of compensation, but from everything I've seen, that compensation is nothing close to what Newcastle could have gotten if they had accepted that 110 million pound bid from Liverpool this summer. Right? I think they have him valued at 150. That's what I've heard. I'm not here to comment on how much he's valued at, but being able to get 110 for a player to 50 to 70, which is what the compensation might be, is ridiculous. This Article 17 has not only taken the leverage away from Newcastle, but it's completely given all of it to Isak. Because now they're going to be forced to sell. Right now they're going to be forced to have him move on and just accept whatever bid. And this is the kicker. Liverpool this offseason, who want Isak, why wouldn't you? He's one of the top strikers in the world. They offered 110 because in their mind, they're like, okay, we have to try to pry Newcastle or try to pry Isak away from Newcastle. We have to try to force Newcastle's hand at letting him go. So we're gonna wave 110 at them and throw that over there. Now that I know you are in a situation where you kind of have to sell him or risk losing him for nothing, I'm not gonna give you another 110. I'm like definitely not gonna give you 150 if that's what you value him at. You know what I mean? You'll get 70, maybe. You know what I mean? If you get anything close to 100, it's just going to be because Liverpool, respects Newcastle as a club, as a competitor, as a Premier League club, as whatever. But Newcastle, I've gone from a situation where, yeah, we don't have to sell. We can stand firm on this, that, and the third. But if this Article 17 thing gets evoked right now, all that leverage is out the window. Now, mind you, it's important to note too that it can only be evoked the last 15 days of the season. So he would be sitting out for a majority of the season if he decides to go there out and Newcastle actually don't move on from him. And this is the other thing too. Maybe there's a loophole too. Maybe Newcastle knows something that I don't. Okay, I just heard about it today. They're really in this situation. I'm sure they've, thought about whatever all the possibilities before putting out a statement like that, basically saying, yeah, no, we're sticking on what we believe in. Isak can come, like he's welcome to come back whenever, right? But yeah, it's a real ugly situation. The thing that's going to be interesting for me, really quick, is the fit because I do think he will go to Liverpool. I think that'll happen at some point, but they don't need him at all, right? If you just watch the first game of the year of the season, Ekitike looked phenomenal for them, right? He looked good even in the Community Shield. I don't know off the top of my head how much they paid for him, but it wasn't cheap. It was a pretty penny. And it's a lot of money to have someone just be a backup and to be a project player. Because he's shown he doesn't need that kind of adjustment period where, maybe he needs to watch from the sidelines and see how someone more experienced operates, whatever, whatever. He was damn near their man of the match in against Bournemouth then in the first game of the season. So for you to just take that away from him and now give Isak all those minutes, I mean, hey, like I said, Isak is one of the best strikers in the world right now. So yeah, if you have the chance to get him, get him. But it is going to be a slightly weird to me, and I wonder how they're going to kind of navigate all that. I wonder how Ekitike is gonna react to all of this. Right? I mean, it's not like this is new either, right? Like we've known Liverpool and Isak have been kind of flirting with each other forever. So it honestly it felt like it was inevitable that at some point he would end up there. And I'm still assuming that now. I'm still assuming that at some point Newcastle is going to have to let go of Isak, whether it be through this Article 17 thing or they're just going to accept the bid. But Isak will end up in a Liverpool shirt. And for all intents and purposes, how all of this has unfolded, I think, I'll be quite honest with you, is a disgrace on his part. I feel like he's ruining his own reputation with this kind of stuff, and just on FIFA's part for allowing something like this to happen with this Article 17 thing. They need to do a better job protecting clubs because this completely alleviates all like any reason to sign a player to a contract longer than 3 years. Because if it's under 3 years, players can still do it, but it's a massive punishment. It's suspensions and everything like that. Obviously, no player's gonna want to do that. So that's why now it's becoming a topic because he has to wait the 3 years. I don't know. Y'all let me know what you think, but that's just my take.